It is almost too easy these days.
Oh, completely.
Like you're sitting on your couch, you open an app, you find that perfect item from some global e-commerce site, and you just click buy.
Right, and you don't even think about it.
Exactly. In your head, the process is pretty simple. A box goes on a truck, the truck goes to a massive cargo ship, the ship crosses an ocean, and, a few days later, it's just sitting right there on your welcome mat.
If only it were that simple.
Right. Because between the moment you click buy and the moment that box actually arrives, your package has to survive this invisible high-stakes obstacle course. So today, welcome to our deep dive. We are uncovering the hidden rules of that game.
The really complicated rules.
Yeah, the ones where, like, a mislabeled battery can literally ground an airplane, or a 10-degree tilt can get 10,000 refrigerators banned from a country.
Which is a real example, by the way.
We will definitely get to that. Because I look at global logistics as a massive board game. You can have the absolute best strategy in the world, the fastest ships, the most efficient warehouses. But if you don't know the rules, your cargo gets seized.
Or your company gets fined, or the goods are just straight up destroyed.
Right. And those rules completely change based on the country you just landed your piece on.
Well, that's the thing. We like to think of global trade as just a matter of physics, right? Moving a physical box from point A to point B.
Yeah, the logistics of it.
But the reality is that the physical movement is actually the easy part. It's the rules and regulations governing that movement that are the actual DNA of the supply chain.
The red tape.
Exactly. They dictate what can be traded, why it matters economically, and they have this massive structural impact on how organizations have to design their entire global networks.
So let's start with the macro level rules of this board game. How countries actually choose to partner up, or I guess how they refuse to partner up.
Right, the macro game. And the foundation of this goes all the way back to Adam Smith's 1776 book, The Wealth of Nations.
Oh, wow, taking it all the way back.
We have to, because the core economic theory there is that removing trade barriers, like tariffs and import quotas, lowers prices, and that benefits society on a macroeconomic level.
The idea being that free trade grows the overall economic pie, right?
Exactly. Free trade agreements, or FTAs, are these legally binding treaties designed to dismantle those barriers between specific nations. They encourage faster transactions and let capital move freely.
But, dropping those barriers isn't just this utopian win-win for absolutely everyone on the ground.
No, not at all. And it's important to be completely objective of the fallout here. While FTAs generally lower prices for consumers and, open up new export markets, they undeniably create winners and losers.
Right, because suddenly local companies are competing with the entire world.
Exactly. Industries that used to enjoy government protection might suddenly face intense international competition. And that can lead to severe hardships, factory closures, job losses in specific regional sectors.
And the sources also mention the risk of trade dumping.
Yes, trade dumping is a very real risk. That's where a foreign entity might sell goods in a new market below their actual cost of production.
Wait, they take a loss on purpose?
Yes, they absorb the short-term loss just to kill off the domestic competition. Once the competition is gone, they can raise prices.
Man, that's brutal. It's a delicate balancing act for any government then. Let's look at a concrete example from the source material about how these agreements actively dictate supply chains. The shift from NAFTA to the USMCA.
Right, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. That shift specifically targeted the auto industry through something called rules of origin.
Rules of origin, what does that mean in practice?
Well, under the old NAFTA rules, 62.5% of a vehicle's components had to be manufactured within the treaty countries to qualify for tariff-free status.
Okay, that makes sense.
But under the USMCA, that requirement jumped to 75%.
Wait, 75%?
Yep.
That's a huge jump. That isn't just a little more paperwork.
Not at all. If you are a logistics manager for a major car company, you can't just source your steering wheels or your microchips from the cheapest supplier in Asia anymore.
Because you wouldn't hit that 75% threshold.
Right. To hit it, you have to aggressively redesign your physical supply network. You're suddenly tasked with finding new suppliers in Mexico or the U.S., auditing their factories, overhauling years of established contracts.
And if you fail to do that,
your vehicles get hit with massive tariffs that basically destroy your profit margin. It forces a massive restructuring of physical assets.
Wow. But it wasn't all just stricter rules, right? There was a flip side to the USMCA.
There was. They did attempt to lower the administrative burden. They eliminated the old requirement for physical, stamped paper certificates of origin.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. Importers can now claim favored trade status using a streamlined digital data process. And even better, if a single import shipment is valued under $2,500, no certification of origin is required at all.
Which radically speeds up low-value e-commerce logistics, like, when you buy something online.
Exactly. But you have to remember, these macro alliances are never permanent.
Right. The board game changes. Political shifts can completely disrupt these networks.
Global logistics requires immense agility because treaties can just vanish overnight. Look at Brexit.
Oh, yeah, that was a massive upheaval.
Suddenly, the UK was no longer part of the EU's established trade agreements with the rest of the world. UK businesses had to navigate an entirely new set of customs borders that simply didn't exist a year prior.
Forcing the government to scramble and negotiate individual bilateral agreements.
Exactly. We also saw the U.S. unilaterally withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Right, that massive proposed trade bloc.
Yeah, which eventually had to move forward without the U.S. and became the CPTPP. When a country pulls out of a bloc, logistics professionals have to develop contingency plans immediately.
Which might mean abandoning a manufacturing hub in one country just to build a new one in another, all to maintain tariff rates.
Exactly, it's high stakes.
So that covers the macro-level alliances. But the sources brought up this concept that fundamentally changes how we think about borders. Foreign or free trade zones, FTZs.
Ah, yes. FTZs are fascinating.
Reading about these, I pictured them like an international waiting room, or like an embassy for goods, a physical location inside a country. But legally, the goods are treated as if they haven't crossed the border yet.
That is a perfect analogy. An FTZ is a highly secure, designated geographical area within a country that is considered outside that country from a strict customs perspective.
But why do companies go through the trouble? I mean, it sounds like a lot of logistical overhead just to store some goods.
The financial impact is staggering. When material is physically inside the zone, it is not subject to import duties or taxes.
So you delay paying the government.
Right. You only pay those duties when the goods are finally moved outside the zone for local domestic consumption.
Okay, but what if they never enter the local market? What if you re-export them to another country?
Then no duties are paid to the host country at all. Zero.
Wow. And the sources mentioned a specific tactic used inside FTZs called an inverted tariff structure, which honestly sounds like a massive loophole.
It sounds like one, but it's actually a completely legal intended strategy. An inverted tariff structure happens when a government charges higher tariff rates on imported raw materials or parts than they do on a finished product.
Let's make that tangible for everyone. Say I am manufacturing heavy construction tractors.
Okay, so under an inverted tariff, the government might charge a 10% tariff on imported steel and a 15% tariff on imported industrial motors. But they only charge a 2% tariff on a fully assembled tractor.
Wait, so if I import the parts normally to build it here, I pay a fortune.
Exactly. But if you bring those high tariff parts into an FTZ duty-free, you can have your workers assemble the parts into the finished tractor right there inside the zone.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Then you officially import the finished tractor into the country, and you only pay the 2% rate.
That is genius. So large manufacturers save millions of dollars just by moving their assembly line a few miles down the road into that specific zone.
Exactly. And the scale of this is massive globally. The United Arab Emirates has over 40 free trade zones, including one integrated directly into the Dubai airport.
China has over 20 massive zones, and the U.S. has over 300, right? There's at least one in every single state.
Right. And the EU takes it even further. Their FTZs can act virtually, where importers with the right licenses can move goods in bond all over the continent.
Wait, in bond, does that literally mean they are traveling with a customs escort or something?
No, it's a financial guarantee. Traveling in bond means a customs bond has been purchased. It acts as an insurance policy for the government.
Okay, so the goods can move freely to an inland facility without paying duties at the seaport.
Exactly. And if the goods somehow, leak into the domestic market or vanish, the bond pays the government the duties owed. It keeps trade flowing rapidly away from congested ports.
So trade agreements and FTZs act like the lubricants of global trade, speeding things up. But the borders themselves are still heavily guarded by strict national regulations.
Oh, definitely. Governments use non-tariff barriers to protect their domestic economies, their infrastructure, and their citizens.
The sources list some really fascinating examples of these non-tariff barriers, like cabotage laws, which restrict the transport of goods within a country strictly to that country's own domestic carriers.
Right. So while the EU relaxed these laws internally, meaning a French truck can make a delivery between two German cities, the USMCA has strict restrictions.
Like Mexican trucks generally not being able to operate routes that begin and end entirely within the U.S.
Exactly. And then there are embargoes, which are total bans on trade with specific nations, like the U.S. embargoes on North Korea or Syria.
And even local cultural events create massive barriers, like the Chinese New Year.
Oh, yeah. That effectively shuts down manufacturing and shipping in and out of the country for over 2 weeks. Supply chains have to stockpile inventory months in advance just to survive that blackout.
But, okay, the absolute standout example for me in the sources was the Japan refrigerator rule.
I love this example.
Because Japan experiences frequent earthquakes, they have a strict, codified regulation that refrigerators must be engineered to withstand being tilted 10 degrees without falling over.
Right. It's a product safety standard.
Right.
But it acts as a hard trade barrier.
Because if a Western appliance manufacturer assumes a refrigerator is just a refrigerator,
And they ship 10,000 standard units across the ocean.
their entire supply chain halts at the Japanese border. The goods will just be rejected.
Exactly. Global logistics is not just about moving freight. It is about knowing the hyper-specific engineering, safety, and cultural requirements of every single market you touch.
And that intense scrutiny goes both ways. It's not just about what countries allow in, it's what they allow out. The sources talked about export controls.
Right, like the Bureau of Industry and Security, the BIS in the U.S., and their commerce control list.
Now, I understand why a company cannot just put a military drone on a cargo ship, obviously, but why does the government track the export of commercial computers or, industrial lasers?
The mechanism driving that is the concept of dual-use goods.
Dual use, meaning they have two purposes.
Right. These are items designed entirely for civilian commercial use, but they possess underlying technical characteristics that allow them to be easily modified for military applications or terrorism.
Oh, wow. So like a high-end commercial telecommunications router could be repurposed to run a military command center.
Precisely. Or a specific marine sensor used for deep-sea oil exploration could be adapted to track military submarines.
That makes total sense now.
So to export these items, logistics teams have to determine if their specific product has an export control classification number, an ECCN.
And if it does,
They cannot simply ship it. They have to apply for a specific export license from the government, detailing exactly who is buying it and what they intend to do with it.
imagine the fallout if you ignore that. Like, you ship a pallet of industrial lasers completely unaware of the ECCN, it gets flagged at the port.
The cargo is seized immediately.
And suddenly, federal agents are investigating your company for illicit arms trafficking.
The penalties are severe. And it's not just the product you have to vet the human being buying it.
Right. Crossing-referencing buyers against restricted lists, like the denied persons list for entities that had their export privileges revoked.
And the specially designated nationals list, which flags individuals tied to terrorism, narcotics trafficking, or hostile regimes.
You have to run these checks on every transaction.
Every single one. Even if it is a customer you have been selling to for 10 years. If they recently got added to a list and you miss that red flag, you face multi-million-dollar fines and severe criminal liability.
Okay, so we have these massive digital systems checking buyers, flagging ECCNs, tracking dual-use goods. But at the end of the day, there is still a human being standing at a physical border post holding a clipboard.
Ah, the human element.
Right. What happens when a shipment is stuck, thousands of dollars are burning up by the hour, and a local official casually suggests that for a small cash favor, they can make the paperwork disappear?
Bribery. Well, the historical shift in how the global community handles bribery is really profound.
How so?
Because several decades ago, many developed nations essentially viewed foreign bribery as just a standard cost of doing business in certain regions.
I've read this in the sources and it blew my mind. Some governments even allowed corporations to deduct foreign bribes as legitimate business expenses on their corporate taxes.
They really did.
The idea of writing off a bribe on a tax return is just wild.
I know, it sounds crazy today. But the turning point was the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention.
Okay, what did that do?
It forced signatory nations, including all 38 OECD countries, to formally criminalize the bribery of foreign public officials. And it strictly prohibited any tax deductions for those payments.
And individual countries have put serious enforcement mechanisms into place since then. The text highlights the UK Bribery Act and the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, or FCPA.
Right. And the UK Bribery Act is particularly aggressive. It covers active bribery, which is offering the money, and passive bribery, receiving it.
And it also applies to bribes within the private sector, right? Not just government officials.
Exactly.
But the craziest part to me is that it makes it a crime for a commercial organization to simply fail to prevent a bribe.
Yes. Failing to prevent bribery is a strict liability offense there.
Wait, how is that fair or even enforceable? How can a company sitting in an office in London be criminally charged because a third-party contracted truck driver in another hemisphere paid a $50 bribe at a rural border crossing?
It is designed specifically to eliminate the blind eye defense.
Ah, plausible deniability.
Exactly. The law forces companies to implement systemic, proactive compliance protocols. It's not necessarily about throwing a London executive in jail over $50. It's about forcing the corporation to take responsibility for its entire supply chain network.
So to avoid liability, the company has to prove they tried to stop it.
Right. They have to show they implemented rigorous anti-bribery training, strict auditing of local partners, clear reporting channels. If they just hire a local agent and say, get the goods across the border, we don't care how, the corporation is liable for failing to prevent the inevitable corruption.
The FCPA operates similarly, right? Hitting companies with massive fines if anyone acting on their behalf provides payments for special customs treatment.
It does. It forces global companies to create uncompromising policies that get incredibly granular.
Granular like what?
Like, a logistics company has to clearly define whether a local warehouse manager is legally allowed to accept a low-value gift from a vendor.
Like a branded coffee cup or a desk calendar?
Exactly. The rules have to be perfectly clear so nobody accidentally triggers an international bribery investigation over a coffee mug.
So we've talked about the legal and ethical red tape, but honestly, none of that paperwork matters if the cargo itself is fundamentally dangerous or compromised in transit.
Right, which brings up a whole new set of physical rules governing safety and security.
Global supply chain security completely shifted following the terrorist attacks of the last few decades, didn't it?
It did. Governments realized that trying to inspect every single container at the physical border was just impossible. It would bring global trade to a standstill.
So what did they do?
The paradigm shifted toward partnering with private industry. The goal became securing the entire supply chain, from the factory floor where the box is packed all the way to the final destination.
The sources detail massive voluntary programs that facilitate this. In the EU, it's the AEO, the Authorized Economic Operator Program. And in the US, it's CTPA, the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism.
Right.
I think of these as like TSA pre-check for shipping containers.
That is the exact mechanism. A logistics company voluntarily approaches the government and agrees to open its operations to intense scrutiny.
And an audit for CTPAT isn't just checking paperwork, right?
Oh no. The government inspects the physical height of their perimeter fences, verifies they are installing biometric scanners for driver access, checks that they actively monitor their IT networks for intrusions, and even reviews their financial stability.
That is a lot of effort for the company. But in exchange for doing all that heavy lifting, the company earns a trusted status.
Exactly. Their cargo gets faster border clearances, priority processing during disruptions, and significantly fewer random inspections.
And the specific tactile security measures they implement on the ground are intense. Like logistics providers use equipment immobilizers to physically prevent a loaded trailer from being stolen from a lot.
They also actively avoid using transport vehicles with breakable glass on high-value routes. And they employ multi-vehicle staggered convoys to prevent hijackings.
And the tech is crazy too, using advanced RFID tags on the cargo itself.
Right, and those tags aren't just for tracking location anymore. They have embedded sensors capable of detecting chemical explosives or sudden spikes in CO2 levels.
So it instantly alerts a monitoring center to an intrusion inside a sealed container.
Exactly. It's incredibly sophisticated.
Sometimes, though, the danger isn't terrorists or cargo thieves. Sometimes the danger is the actual product being shipped.
Dangerous goods. Hazmat.
Right. It's one of the most intensely regulated areas of global logistics. The foundation is the UN model regulations, but depending on the specific mode of transport, different groups enforce their own strict rules.
Sea freight is governed by the IMDG code, and air freight is regulated by IATA.
And the rules for air transport under IATA are exceptionally strict, right? Because you have to account for the physics of an aircraft.
We do. This is where things that seem perfectly safe sitting on our kitchen counter become heavily restricted in the air.
Like dry ice and lithium batteries, the sources specifically called those out.
Let's consider the mechanism of dry ice, which is frozen carbon dioxide. As it warms, it sublimates.
Meaning it turns directly from a solid into a gas.
Right. And in a deep pressurized cargo, hold at 30,000 feet, that gas expands rapidly. If it is not ventilated perfectly, it displaces the oxygen in the hold and can build up enough pressure to cause an explosion.
Oh, wow. And lithium batteries, the ones in the laptop or phone that we use every day.
Heavily restricted because they are prone to a phenomenon called thermal runaway.
Thermal runaway, what is that?
If one tiny cell in a battery short circuits and overheats, it can ignite the cell next to it. That creates a self-sustaining chemical fire that standard aircraft fire extinguishers cannot easily put out.
So if a logistics manager fails to declare those batteries properly and just tosses them into a standard cargo bin,
They could easily bring down an aircraft.
because the physical stakes are that high, the industry relies on the Globally Harmonized System, or GHS, for chemicals.
Right. It's a universal system using standard pictograms.
It's like the skull and crossbones icon.
Yes, or the flame icon. And specific signal words on safety data sheets. The mechanism here is ultimate clarity. A port worker in Mumbai, a truck driver in Chicago, and a warehouse manager in Rotterdam all instantly understand exactly what chemical danger they are handling, regardless of language barriers.
And that GHS data actually dictates how you physically pack the transportation vessel.
Oh, absolutely. The IMDG code for sea shipments mandates incredibly complex segregation rules.
Give me an example.
Well, you can never load corrosive materials physically above flammable materials.
Because if there's a leak.
Right. If there is a storm and a container leaks, you cannot have a corrosive substance dripping down, eating through the metal below, and igniting a flammable liquid.
That would be a disaster.
You also have to maintain specific, calculated distances between incompatible classes of explosives. Loading a cargo ship is essentially a massive game of three-dimensional Tetris, where a wrong move can cause a catastrophic chain reaction.
Wow. By understanding all of this, trade agreements, compliance protocols, these intense safety regulations, you really start to look at global trade differently.
It is definitely not just a chaotic mess of cargo ships and trucks.
No. It is a highly choreographed, intensely regulated dance. Knowing these rules, knowing how to navigate the financial benefits of FTZs, how to audit a buyer for dual-use goods, and how to safely segregate hazmat is literally the difference between a highly profitable global expansion and a seized shipment sitting in a port indefinitely.
And, throughout this discussion, we've talked extensively about physical borders.
Yeah.
We've spent centuries building inspection yards, checkpoints, and literal walls to regulate trade. But the sources noted a massive industry-wide shift toward digital transition.
And switch for completely paperless trade.
Exactly. We are seeing the rise of e-year waybills, fully digital certificates of origin, and real-time instantaneous tracking data.
So as documentation becomes entirely digital and tracking becomes absolute, it raises a fascinating question for the future of logistics.
It really does.
Yeah.
Are we moving toward a reality where a country's border is no longer a physical coastline or a wall, but a continuously shifting, invisible digital data perimeter?
That's a wild thought. Will all customs clearance, security auditing, and tariff collection just happen automatically in the cloud days before a ship even leaves its home port?
It's very possible the entire nature of the border is changing.
It makes you wonder what the rules of this board game are going to look like in 10 years. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you click buy and wait for that box to arrive on your welcome mat, keep questioning the invisible systems that run the world.